Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the incredible, intricate machinery that powers the world's largest democracy, India. First things first, you've just got to wrap your head around the sheer scale of this whole thing. We're talking about 968 million eligible voters. Just think about that for a second. That's more people than the entire population of the United States and the European Union put together. So the big question is, right? How on earth does a nation this massive, this diverse, actually choose its leaders? How does it all work? It's a story that's got everything. Countless parties, really complex roles, and it's always evolving. It's a real democratic giant. Okay, so let's dive into this. And we'll start with the basics, the building blocks of pretty much any political system. All right, so to make sense of all the players in the game, we've got to understand the game board, right? And that's the political spectrum. Think of it as a universal toolkit for sorting out all these different ideas. So in really simple terms, you can imagine politics on a line. Over on the left wing, you tend to find parties that want to see some pretty big changes, focusing on social equality, and they're often critical of capitalism. Then you look over to the right wing, and you'll generally find a more conservative approach, wanting to preserve traditions and existing structures, with ideologies often rooted in things like nationalism or religion. But, of course, it's not all black and white, is it? A lot of parties, maybe even most, don't camp out at the extreme ends. They're what we call centrist. Their focus is much more on the practical, here-and-now issues, things like tackling poverty or creating jobs, instead of sticking to a super strict ideology. All right, now let's take that idea of a spectrum and lay it over India. And what you'll see pretty much immediately is that it's not just a straight line. It's more like a giant, complicated maze of parties. Which leads to a really big question. Why so many? Well, the answer is pretty simple, and it's right there in the incredible diversity of the country itself. I mean, we're talking about a place with so many different languages, religions, castes, and cultures. A simple two-party system? No way. It just couldn't represent everyone. Every group, every community wants to have its voice heard. And this whole political landscape has gone through some major shifts over the years. Right after independence, for about 20 years, one party, the Indian National Congress, just dominated everything. They were the undisputed giants. But then, things started to change. Around the late 60s, you see these regional parties start popping up, and they began to chip away at that single-party rule. And that brings us to where we are today, the coalition era. Now, no single party can usually get a majority on its own, so they have to team up, forming these alliances to govern. And this chart, wow, it tells that story perfectly. Just look at the trend lines. You can literally see the vote share for the Congress Party going down over time. And at the exact same time, you see the BJP on a clear upward path. But here's the really crucial part. Look at that third bar for all the other regional parties. It's been steadily rising, showing just how important they've become in the whole mix. Okay, so we've got the political stage set. We know who the players are. But what about the main event itself, the election? How in the world does this massive, just epic election actually happen? How do you pull it off? Well, the entire show is run by this one single body, and it is incredibly powerful and, crucially, independent. It's called the Election Commission of India, or the ECI. It's written right into the Constitution, and believe me, they call all the shots, from setting the dates to making sure everyone plays by the rules. So this whole process, which is really like a marathon, can be broken down into 5 main steps. First up, the ECI makes the official announcement. The second that happens, bam, a strict model code of conduct kicks in for everyone. Next, candidates get about a week to file their nomination papers. After that, it's campaign time, a 2-week whirlwind of rallies and meetings that ends just 48 hours before the polls open. Then comes the actual voting, which is done in different phases across the country over a month or so, just to handle the sheer numbers. And finally, the grand finale, all the votes are counted, and the results are usually announced on a single, very exciting day. Okay, but you can imagine, right? Running a fair election on this scale isn't something you can just set and forget. The system has to be constantly updated. It needs reforms, big and small, to keep the game fair and to make sure people trust the results. And one of the biggest reforms, a real game changer, happened back in 1989. They lowered the voting age from 21 all the way down to 18. Just like that, millions of young people were brought into the fold, instantly getting a say in the country's direction. That's huge. And talk about a game changer. Let's look at the technology. It used to be all about paper ballots. You'd stamp a piece of paper, drop it in a box, and counting all that, it took days and there were always mistakes. But now, it's all about these electronic voting machines, or EVMs. You just press a button, the counting is done in hours, not days, and it's incredibly accurate. Plus, it completely gets rid of the whole issue of invalid votes from messy stamping. It's a total revolution in the process. So what holds all of this together? Well, it's all built on a really solid legal backbone. Of course, the Constitution is the foundation for everything. But the real nuts and bolts come from a couple of key laws, called the Representation of the People Acts. You can think of it this way. The first act, from 1950, is all about getting ready for the election. Who gets to vote, where the seats are, that kind of thing. The second act, from 1951, is about the election itself, how it's run, what the rules are for candidates, and what happens if people cheat. So as you can see, this whole machinery of Indian democracy is never static. It's always being tweaked, always evolving. And with regional voices and identity-based politics getting stronger and stronger,